My dear students of class 9A and B, today I am going to introduce you the previous 2 points, the Khalji dynasty and the Tughlaq dynasty. Now why I am going to re-explain the same 2 points. I had some ideas so as to make you alert of the points which are not possible to you to understand as easily as it is possible. Some points are there which I could not explain in my previous classes. Now I am going to re-explain it so that you must keep it in your mind and can face any type of inside questions if I give it. Now first one, the Tughlaq dynasty. Who was the founder ruler of the Tughlaq dynasty? You know it. In my previous class I taught. The founder ruler of the Tughlaq dynasty was Jalaluddin Khalji. Who was the founder ruler of the Khalji dynasty? Jalaluddin Khalji was the founder ruler of the Khalji dynasty. But Jalaluddin Khalji came to power at the age of 60 years. The time when he came to power, Alauddin had intention to be the ruler of the Delhi Sultanate very soon, and he was making his own group so that by making his group powerful, he might become the ruler of the Delhi Sultanate. But the glory, the image, popularity of Jalaluddin could not allow him to intervene and could not allow him to be the ruler of the Delhi Sultanate. But Jalaluddin had great sympathy for his nephew Alauddin. Jalaluddin had control over his state by means of his good policies he had been framing from time to time. He organized a group who were assigned to shoulder many responsibilities, to look after the daily works of the people, so that people must intimate their grievances to the state and it must be solved before they would become impatient. That's why, my dear students, the rule of Jalaluddin had become a rule of the people. People were satisfied. Although Jalaluddin was physically fit and stout, Alauddin realized that his power, his uncle, should be shifted from power. Only when the Mongols threatened Jalaluddin, whenever the Mongols threatened Jalaluddin, what decision had been taken by Jalaluddin was not ventilated, was not, disclosed. Alauddin wanted to learn it, but Jalaluddin did not disclose it, that what policy against the Mongols the state had taken. So Jalaluddin's privacy caused a contrast between uncle and nephew, Jalaluddin and Alauddin. Alauddin was in the dark. He could not understand what to do. But what had he realized was to take a revenge of that insult. His old-aged uncle had insulted him because he did not consult him anything about the policy for the Mongols he had adopted. He realized that he was going, according to some historians, he realized that he was going to make some precautionary action. He was going to take some precautionary action against the Mongols either, or he was going to surrender before the Mongols, and ultimately the Mongols would raid the country. And according to some other historians, Alauddin wanted to be the ruler of the Delhi Sultanate by hook or by crook. At any cost, he wanted to be the ruler of the Delhi Sultanate. And his uncle, Jalaluddin, could not understand that easy diplomacy of Alauddin, that Alauddin was plotting against him in order to kill him. Because the spice system of Jalaluddin was very weak. That's why he could not have any information about that conspiracy. And ultimately, he was murdered, and Alauddin became the ruler of the Delhi Sultanate. On being the ruler of the Delhi Sultanate, Alauddin felt that he must have to take certain measures in order to crush the growing influence of the nobles. According to Alauddin, the nobles were the root cause of all kinds of conspiracies. That's why their influence should be curbed immediately. Keeping this in mind, he found out certain ideas. What was it? He introduced certain reforms. Number one, no one would assemble in a particular place during any festival, and taking alcohols and other drugs was strictly prohibited. And third one, cheating in the market by the traders would be strictly punished. No trader would give less way to the customers while selling any good. Apart from this, he also strengthened the system of spice network in order to collect correct information about his state and about the motives of the nobles. By that way, he crushed the growing influence of the nobles. He introduced a system of chehra and dog, means branded horse. What was about it? Earlier, the soldiers, the horses, sitting on the horsebacks used to go to fight against their enemies and could not perform well in the battlefield. During the time of training, they performed well, but the time when they fought against their enemies, they could not perform well. Alauddin decided to remove that act of misery. That's why he introduced a system of branded horse and branded soldier, means dag or chehra. The soldiers were very well efficient, brave, very skillful. On their body, a symbol was marked on their body, and on the back or body of the horses. The horses which were very skillful, talented, the horses were very intelligent. Their body also was marked by giving one symbol. That act of system was known as branded horse and branded soldiers. He introduced that system in order to make sure that who were skillful, the soldiers who were skillful and the horses which could run very fast were going to face their soldiers in the battlefield. So by this way, Alauddin strengthened his army and made a very powerful army and was able to strengthen his empire till his death. It was an effort of his, commander. Who was his commander? Malik Kafur. Malik Kafur advised him to extend his empire towards southern part. But Alauddin did not want to allow his empire to be extended towards southern parts. Why? Because Alauddin believed that an empire should be strengthened only when it should be under the control of the emperor. That's why empire should not be extended beyond the control of the emperor. That's why he did not want to extend his empire. He wanted it to be very much powerful and an empire under his control. That's why the advice and suggestion, whatever Malik Kafur gave him, he ignored it. But ultimately, Malik Kafur was able to make him agree by giving certain explanations that making them defeated at the hands of the Khaljis and making them agree to accept the leadership of Alauddin would bring prosperity in the country. That's why Alauddin Khilji ultimately gave his consent to Malik Kafur, and Malik Kafur took an expedition for South India, defeated many of the rulers who ultimately accepted the political superiority of Alauddin and also agreed to pay annual tribute. Although their territories were not included with the Khalji dynasty, yet they were asked to pay annual tribute to the royal treasury of Delhi under the kingship of Alauddin Khilji. So, Alauddin Khilji and his rule, his fame, his glory reached far and wide, but after his death there was none to look after it. And then who came to power? Then Muhammad bin Tughlaq and Tughlaq dynasty came to power. His father was murdered by his son Junna Khan. Then Junna Khan assumed the title. Muhammad bin Tughlaq came to power, and he also, introduced three schemes, but three schemes came to be failure. Number one scheme was imposition of taxes on Doab. Doab was a place very fertile beside the river Ganga and Yamuna. Every year, people paid huge amount of taxes and revenues from Doab because of their bulk quantity of production from their agricultural lands, which are very fertile. But the time when Doab was facing a severe famine, Muhammad bin Tughlaq imposed high amount of taxes. He increased the amount of taxes on Doab. Peasants and farmers who were comparatively better financially, they were able to pay something, but still they were forced to pay the full amount of revenues Muhammad bin Tughlaq increased for them. And rest of them, they all left their villages and sheltered in a jungle either, or they started organizing a revolutionary group in order to resist the wrong policy of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And rest of them, they died. They died empty stomach. And hence, the people were not happy. Ultimately, Muhammad bin Tughlaq realized his mistake and decided to rectify it by providing loans, by giving some concessions, by providing good quality, by providing quality seeds, so that residential farmers once again cultivate crops from their agricultural lands. And there was a system introduced supplying water through canals, so that they must overcome their difficulties during the time of harvest in order to avoid scorching rays of suns and famine and other natural disasters. That's why, my dear students, the rule Muhammad bin Tughlaq, whatever effort he had done, had caused a great loss, and ultimately that scheme was abandoned. And another one, shifting of capital from Delhi to Daulatabad. Delhi was targeted by the Mongols. Muhammad bin Tughlaq knew it. That's why, under the threatening of the Mongols, he decided to shift his capital from Delhi to Daulatabad. The time when he shifted his capital, he ordered his men, along with all the bureaucrats, nobles, to leave for Daulatabad. But they were forced to leave. Many of them did not intend to leave for Daulatabad, but they were forced to leave. Ultimately, that act of harassment, misery, created nationwide dissatisfaction. People were not happy. So many people died, and so many people, dissatisfied. They showed their grievances. The time when, once again, on reaching Daulatabad, Muhammad bin Tughlaq ordered his men to get back Delhi once again. So that act of harassment and humiliation caused dissatisfaction throughout the country. And third scheme, Muhammad bin Tughlaq introduced a token currency, a system of token currency. Instead of silver coins, he decided to mint coins made of brass. But brass was a common metal stocked by each and every person in their houses. So the time when the brass mints made of brass were minted from the royal mint, so many traders and businessmen could not differentiate between the counterfeit coin and the original coin of original royal coin. They could not understand which one was correct and which one was fake. Ultimately, they had to suffer a lot, and they had suffered huge financial burden, and then ultimately they decided to bring it to the notice of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. On hearing their grievances, Muhammad bin Tughlaq withdrew his third scheme, the scheme of introduction of token currency. So these three schemes totally failed, and Muhammad bin Tughlaq also failed to achieve success and unable to gain popularity. So, but still, I discussed, the name of Muhammad bin Tughlaq is written in the history because of his extraordinary knowledge in different subjects, especially in maths. He was very strong in maths, and not only that, he knew so many languages. So he was a mixture quality. He was a king of mixture qualities. That's why the historians referred him to wise fool. That's why the name of Muhammad bin Tughlaq is there in the history of India. Although he could not achieve success, but still he is known as wise fool. Wise fool. Up to this, my dear students, next day, means on Monday, I shall continue teaching of the remaining part. Thank you, my dear students.